Untold stories of the Kru People. Welcome back, explorers. If you thought you knew the Kru People, think again. Today, we're diving even deeper into the untold stories of West Africa's legendary sailors, empire-era traders, and unbreakable warriors. From secret maritime missions to daring high seas adventures, the Kru were more than just coast dwellers. They were masters of survival, innovation, and resistance. Grab your explorer hats because this bonus episode's hidden chapters of the Kru are about to unfold. Most people don't know that the Kru were behind some of the most daring maritime missions in West African history. Coastal villages and dense mangroves weren't just homes, they were bases for navigation, trade, and even intelligence gathering. Kru sailors would secretly transport goods, people, and messages between empires, sometimes under the radar of European traders. Their boats were small but fast, expertly crafted to handle the Atlantic waves, rivers, and hidden channels. Being a Kru navigator wasn't just a job, it was a high-stakes adventure where skill meant survival. The Kru weren't content staying in one place. They undertook long voyages along the West African coast, from Sierra Leone to Côte d'Ivoire, sometimes reaching farther than many Europeans dared to sail. These journeys weren't just about trade, they were about discovery, alliance building, and asserting independence. Kru sailors were often hired by other African kingdoms to navigate dangerous waters, proving time and again that their knowledge of tides, winds, and currents was unmatched. Imagine crossing treacherous rivers and the vast Atlantic, guided only by the sun, stars, and generations of accumulated wisdom. We know the Kru resisted enslavement, but did you know some of their most famous acts of resistance were maritime feats? They would sabotage European ships, mislead captains, and hide entire villages in mangrove forests. Some Kru navigators even led daring rescues of captives along the coast. This wasn't just courage, it was strategy. They understood the seas, the currents, and the terrain better than anyone. And European traders quickly learned the Kru were truly uncatchable. These stories helped solidify their legendary reputation across West Africa, a reputation that survives to this day. The Kru were more than warriors and sailors. Their cultural traditions were deeply tied to the ocean and their ancestors. Special ceremonies marked departures and returns from voyages. Songs recounted daring adventures, and storytelling preserved secrets that were too dangerous to write down. They also had unique martial traditions, techniques passed down for protection on both land and sea. The Kru weren't just surviving, they were thriving culturally, blending independence, bravery, and innovation into daily life. These untold stories reveal a different side of the Kru, one of cunning, adventure, and resilience that didn't fit into our previous episode. Their legacy continues not just in Liberia and Côte d'Ivoire, but in the maritime traditions, cultural pride, and historical memory across West Africa. Even today, Kru descendants honor these maritime feats in festivals, ceremonies, and coastal finishing practices, living proof of centuries of ingenuity and courage. So, explorers, the bonus journey of the Kru teaches us that history isn't just in books or empires, it's in their people who dared to defy expectations, master the seas, and protect their communities. If you loved uncovering these hidden chapters, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe so you won't miss any future adventures into Africa's royal and revolutionary history. As seafaring demand rose along the West African coast, the Kru began to spread far beyond their home villages, forming a diaspora of sailors, labourers, and traders that stretched across the continent and beyond. By the late 1700s and early 1800s, young crewmen were leaving the coast for wage labour in nearly new-founded ports like Freetown in modern Sierra Leone, often under contract with British merchants. This mobility birthed a professional maritime identity, sometimes called crewmen, used by Europeans to refer to West African sailors from Kru and related coastal peoples. Over time, Kru became more of a maritime labour identity than a strictly local tribal name. Kru sailors worked on many ships, merchant vessels, trading ships, even warships, serving across the Atlantic to Europe and beyond. This diaspora changed the nature of home for many Kru. Some returned to their coastal villages, others settled in port cities far from Liberia, forming diaspora communities linked by shared maritime heritage. This global maritime life reshaped Kru's social structure and identity. What started as a decentralized network of coastal towns, each with their own clans, elders, and patrilineal systems, began to evolve under external pressures of labor migration, colonial trade, and shifting tides of power. In many cases, young men left their hometowns for months or years at a time, working aboard ships or in foreign ports. What once was seasonal fishing or trade transformed into long-term foreign flags. As a result, traditional clan-based leadership and town councils weakened, with many men gone, traditional offices changed or disappeared. By the 20th century, the old autonomous town system had largely given way under pressures of modern state governance and diaspora. On the other hand, a broader pan-Kru or marina Kru identity emerged, one based on livelihood, seafaring, wage labour, adaptability, rather than just birthplace. This identity helped bind together people across different towns and even across national borders. But migration and labour didn't mean the end of resistance. The Kru people maintained and sometimes intensified their resistance to oppression, especially as state powers tried to control their labour or marginalise them. In the early 20th century, when colonial-era pressures and national policies sought to limit Kru mobility and labour autonomy, tensions rose. Many Kru resisted these attempts, seeing them as renewed attempts at subjugation and loss of freedom. Some historical sources reference conflicts between Kru communities or diaspora groups and state forces, notably during periods when the state tried to impose taxes, limits on movement or exploitation of labour. Despite repression and systemic marginalisation, the Kru maintained a strong sense of identity, rooted in their maritime heritage, their clan origins, and the legacy of refusing enslavement, domination, or forced assimilation. Today, the story of the Kru continues, not just as history but living heritage. Their descendants live along the southern Liberian coast, in port cities and across the diaspora. Their language, part of the Niger-Congo family, remains spoken among communities, and many still identify as Kru, Krumen, or related coastal groups, for example, Grebo, Bassa, Kran. In recent years, local initiatives have emerged to reclaim and preserve Kru history. For instance, a new archaeological and heritage project in the coastal region aims to document ancestral villages, maritime artifacts, and oral histories, pushing back against centuries of neglect, misunderstandings, and misrepresentation. The Kru legacy, seaworthy canoes, marina skill, resilient clan memory, still shapes communities today. Whether in fishing villages, port towns, or diaspora hubs, the Kru spirit lives on. So explorers, the journey of the Kru isn't just ancient history, it's present, alive in living people, evolving cultures, and the waves of the Atlantic coast they still navigate. Before we wrap up, I wanted to clarify something important about the Kru people. I looked into whether there's evidence linking the Kru to major inland empires like Mali or Ghana, or claims that they disintegrated into groups like the Fanti or Soso. So here's what the research actually shows. So scholarship confirms the following. The Kru are a coastal and maritime people native to southern Liberia and southwestern Côte d'Ivoire. Their social organization was decentralized, each subgroup lived in autonomous towns, structured around patrilineal clans, not a unified state. Their coastal livelihood centered on fishing, seafaring and boat building. During European contact, many became sailors and port workers known as crewmen. Over time, many Kru migrated to urban areas or across West African ports, forming a maritime diaspora network. Modern Kru identity was shaped during this period as multiple coastal subgroups coalesced under the label Kru due to labor, migration and colonial pressures. What remains unverified or speculative? There's no credible sources tie the Kru to inland empires like Mali or Ghana. There's no evidence that the Kru became Fanti, Soso or similar inland ethnic groups. Those groups' origins trace elsewhere, like Akan migrations for the Fanti. While Kru subgroups mix locally, they remain part of the broader Kru linguistic and cultural cluster. Early history has gaps due to limited research and disruptions, so some oral traditions remain unverified. In short, the Kru emerged as a coastal, clan-based maritime people. Their identity grew through migration, seafaring and social adaptation, not through inland empire affiliation or transformation into other ethnic groups. And that's why this information wasn't included in the main episode. Including unverified claims would risk spreading myths instead of honouring historical truth. If you believe these stories matter, hit like, share and subscribe to Review TV and help keep these hidden chapters alive. Until next time, thank you for joining Nadia today. Keep your curiosity alive, your horizons wide, and remember, the stories that survive are often the ones that refuse to bow.